one of the three most important gods of the Hindu religion, that is Vishnu. The other, the others being Shiva, as well as the Devi or Shakti in her many forms that she takes. In other words, the goddess in her many forms. So Vishnu has many avatara or avatars, and we'll talk about that more in a second. But from these pictures of these popular media, movie and TV show, we might be able to get a guess of what's going on with this word avatar. The movie, uh, the Avatar, where I think it's Jake Sully. He is a man whose legs are decapacitated. He's paralyzed from being in the military and had an accident in the military, and his mind is transmitted to a new body, and he's able to walk around. So in this, it's a intellectual or mental or cognitive descent into a brand new body. In in Jake Scully's case, and in the Nickelodeon TV show, The Last Airbender, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Is it Aang? I think it's Aang. He's supposedly a reincarnation of avatars who bring balance to the different powers, different kingdoms in the world, and this kind of being is born again and again into the world. Now it's unclear to me based on the avatar cosmology or metaphysics, better put, in this TV show, whether it's a personality that's born again and again. It seems to not be the case that way with the new Avatar films, which is a girl Avatar who has a pretty different personality from Aang, but rather it seems to be this power and this purpose to bring balance back in the world. And this is the thing that is the spirit that is born again and again to this world. All right, we'll look at this more as we go on in this presentation. So through this presentation, you should be able to answer these questions of, well, first of all, who is Vishnu, but also who is Krishna, and how is Krishna related to Vishnu? What is the Ramayana or Ramayana? Both pronunciations, from what I understand, are correct. How are Krishna and Rama related? Okay, both these great beings, how are they related? And both being very important beings within Hinduism, and as well as perhaps speculate on how the look at Vishnu and the avatars, whether Hinduism is an inclusive or exclusive religion. So first, Vishnu. Vishnu was a minor god in the earliest Hindu scriptures, the Vedas, the only scriptures that are universally recognized, or mostly universally recognized by Hindus, as having the status of pure revelation, that which is heard, or Shruti, whereas others are considered Smriti, often spelled Smrti when transliterated into English, and Smriti meaning that which is remembered, that which has been passed down, often orally, for generations before they're written down. Other scriptures, but this isn't a perfect designation of what is more important as far as popular belief goes, as many Smriti scriptures are more important than the Vedas in the daily lives of Hindus. Okay, so with that mention, he was a minor god in the Vedas. There's a story about a great king holding a great party and inviting many nobles and divine beings to his big party. It's the party of the century, the party of the eon, the party of the millennium. And one of these guests of his is Vishnu, and Vishnu is in the form of a dwarf, uh, a little person, in this, and perhaps it's intentionally done by Vishnu for this king, to honor his honored guests, he offers each one a boon, each one a gift, anything they they want. And when it comes to Vishnu's turn to be offered a gift, Vishnu says, will you give me the land of as far as I can walk in 3 steps? And he's just a little dwarf, so the king says, sure, I guess that would be reasonable. And so, but Vishnu, as he's taking his steps, assumes his true form as a majestic divine being. And in the first step, he covers the earth, and next step, he covers the sun, and his third step, he covers the rest of the universe, and all the universe becomes his, I guess, through this boon of the party. And although I don't know if it was the king's right and power to give the whole universe. Anyway, my commentary is aside. So he's beside the story, he's a minor god, and only mentioned a few times in the Vedas. Other gods give much bigger given much bigger appearance in the Vedas. However, just like movie stars, just like musicians, gods come and go as far as their popularity goes, and this is very much true in the history of Hinduism. It was starting about a little over 2,000 years ago that his popularity rose, and he became through preachers and perhaps mystical experiences of those that were devoted to him, and people passing on their mystical experiences by word of mouth. His popularity arose, and scriptures were born out of the devotion to him, and he became seen by many Hindus as the personality of the Supreme Godhead. In other words, the Supreme God himself. Two of these scriptures that are written is the Vishnu Smriti. So a scripture is all about Vishnu. See the word Smriti there, that which is remembered. And the Bhagavata Purana. There are many different Puranas, not the kind of fish that are going to eat you if you go in a river with them, their teeth, but a scriptures that has 18 different sets, and 6 of these are devoted to stories about Vishnu and his avatar. And one of the most famous of these being the Bhagavata Purana, one of the most important of the 6. Okay. Vishnu has a consort, like most all gods in the Hindu universe, wife, a kind of female companion, and who's also divine or goddess. This is Lakshmi, who we've already referred to. He's usually depicted in his iconography or his depiction, his imagery, as having 4 arms. This shows his omnipotence and omnipresence. He can be everywhere at once. He can do multiple things at the same time. He doesn't just have two hands, 2 arms like regular human being. He has multiple sets. Right. He has a discus, and this is to symbolize that he's aware of and dictates all times at once. Okay, so all he is aware of from the beginning to the end of eternity, and he dictates all time at the same time. Okay. He has a conch shell. It's difficult to say 5 times fast. Conch shell, conch shell, conch shell, conch shell, conch shell. But this is said to be an maker, the holy mantra, which is the seed sound or the eternal sound of the universe that represents no sound in particular, but all sounds, right? He also has a bow, which is a Maya maker, right? This isn't the nice name of a nice girl's name, rather, if you remember from previous readings and lectures, Maya is that which veils true reality, or being able to perceive reality in its fullest, in its true form. Right? This is a function that all the gods play, because as human beings cannot feel or perceive reality in its fullest form, we don't have the intellectual capability to do all that at once. So the gods veil it, create a sort of illusion so that we can interact and be in this world and develop according to our capacities and potentials in a reasonable amount of growth and development in a lifetime. Okay, so he creates this Maya, this veil of reality. He also has a lotus flower, which is part of him moving the universe, but it also represents all that is good, all purity, eternity itself, all prosperity. And the lotus is a very important symbol, not just in Hinduism, but in many different Indian religions, as the lotus flower blooms from the mud at the bottom of a pond or lake or river. Yet once it's on the top, it blossoms as this beautiful flower, sitting exalted and transcendent of its more mundane, muddy place of origin. And human beings are seen to have this kind of potential as well, to transcend the mundane physical aspects of lives, to be able to perceive the transcendent and eternal as spiritual beings. Other attributes that Vishnu is said to have include splendor or effulgence. Effulgence means like beaming radiance. He's said to be extremely generous, extremely compassionate. There's another story about a king that comes much later in a scripture in which a king tests different gods by insulting them, and these different gods, which are a mainstay of the Hindu universe, insult him back for his slight. Finally, he goes up to Vishnu and kicks Vishnu in the belly while Vishnu is sleeping, which I don't recommend to do to anyone you want to be on good terms on the future. But Vishnu and wakes up, and instead of getting mad or kicking the guy back, he asks about his foot and is hoping that the king's foot is feeling okay after kicking Vishnu so hard, and so shows great mercy and tenderness as his response. And the king responds that Vishnu is superior to them all because of his great forbearance and compassion and tenderness and kindness. Remember that any single Hindu can be considered monotheist or polytheist based on your certain point of view, and really based on how that Hindu conducts his or her life. Now, someone who's of the Vaishnava devotion, in other words, takes Vishnu as the supreme god, may only worship Vishnu himself and consider all other gods as facets of Vishnu, as the avatar of Vishnu, as facets of him, or expressions or manifestations of him on earth, and really the only supreme god is Vishnu himself. This is of the Vaishnava persuasion, as opposed to Shaivism, in which someone might see Shiva in the same light as the only supreme god, and all other gods as manifestations or showing attributes of Shiva. And so someone of Shaivism, Shaivism, would see Vishnu as no more as perhaps an expression or showing forth an attribute of Shiva, emphasizing the generosity or loving kindness of Shiva, right? However, those who have Vaishnava, no, that's the other way around. Vishnu is the guy. He's the supreme, and maybe Shiva is just but a attribute of Vishnu. Now, a certain type of Vaishnavism, Vishishta, Advaita, these are people who see all reality as one reality, all reality as being. We perceive multiplicity, but this is just various attributes or qualities or expressions of the work and movement of the supreme god Vishnu. Vishnu is the only god not just the only god, but the only reality that exists, and everything else is as waves rising from the ocean. And Vishishta Advaita believes that the thing that they must do to perceive the oneness of reality is to engage in bhakti or loving devotion of Vishnu throughout their lives, and slowly the veils of differentiation will peel away, and they'll see all things as just Vishnu itself. And this form of thought is expressed in one of the most famous scriptures about Vishnu and his avatar Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita. And I won't read this all to you. You can pause the video and read it all to yourself, but let's read a little bit of it. I pervade the entire universe. All creatures find their existence in me. I bring them forth and support them. Under my watchful eye, the laws of nature take their course. Truly, great souls seek my divine nature. They worship me with a one-pointed mind. They make firm resolve, full of devotion. They sing of my divine glory. Right? This is very much Vishishta Advaita being expressed. They follow the path of jnana, spiritual wisdom. So the Vishnu is very much being seen as the supreme reality itself in this passage. As you read on, you can see more evidence of this at the very end. Here it says, even a sinner becomes holy when he worships me alone with firm resolve. Give all your love to me. Fill your mind with me. Serve me. Worship me always. Seeking me in your heart, you at last be united with me. Should be at last. I think at least is a typo right there. Okay, so sort of bhakti path. Give all your love to me. Fill your mind with me. Serve me. Worship me always. Seeking me in your heart. Okay, and this desire to become united with the ultimate reality, the ultimate personal God, Vishnu himself. Okay, so let's look at more close this idea of Avatara. Okay. This idea has been expressed by a guru in the 15th century named Ravi Das, a famous guru. It says, there's but one God. Amidst all, the one Lord has assumed many forms. Okay, this is kind of expressing this monotheistic sort of forms of the one God. There's just one God, but it has many forms. But in more particular, right, you can see the idea of avatar expressed in this famous passage from the Bhagavad Gita, when it says, whenever righteousness wanes, okay, so goes down, wanes, and unrighteousness increases, I send myself forth. I send myself forth. Okay. For the protection of the good, and for the destruction of evil, and for the establishment of righteousness, I come into being age after age. So this has been understood that this supreme God Vishnu will take on various physical forms in different times, different ages, okay, to fight against unrighteousness. This is often seen as fighting against demons, but forgetfulness of the way of righteousness. Okay, and so he teaches and fights for the establishment of good and the destruction of evil. He comes into being age after age. So he comes into being. That means he takes on a physical form. The spirit being takes on a physical manifestation, incarnation per se, which literally means to make flesh, right? Or a manifestation, okay, to make something else in more concrete form, an appearance or a theophany. The appearance of God literally is a theophany. So let's look at some examples of these avatars of Vishnu. And you have Matsya, and there's a story of him becoming a fish and being with the first man, Manu. There's Kurma, the tortoise, Varaha, the boar, Narasimha, half man, half lion, Vamana, the dwarf, Parashurama. Okay, these are all, you can look up these stories. They're very interesting. There's many stories about these myths about these avatar of Vishnu, usually having to do with coming to the world to defeat some sort of demon. But there's other interesting things that they do, and you can read about them on your own. The most famous ones, the ones we're going to concentrate this presentation, are Rama, Krishna. Oh, look, that's interesting. The Buddha is there too, right? And Kalki. Okay, so Rama and Krishna will look at in a moment. The Buddha will look at this a little bit more closely in our next unit on Buddhism, but at one point in time, a large minority or perhaps majority of India was at least nominally Buddhist. And oh, beginning around 1,000 years, perhaps 1,200 years ago, there were different, really bhakti revival movements that rose up the popularity or returned the popularity of certain gods, or brought traditional Hindu gods that weren't as important previously as being more important now. And as part of this movement, those devotees of Vishnu consolidated the Buddha, instead of fighting and saying, no, no, you got it all wrong. The Buddha is nothing, is no one. He's leading you astray. Rather, they said, oh yeah, the Buddha is great. He's awesome, and there's good reason why you've been devoted to him and his teachings. You Buddhists, it's because he's actually an avatar. He's an incarnation or theophany of our great God, the supreme God, Vishnu. Okay, instead of fighting them, not really joining them, but absorbing their own belief into the Hindu system, or at least a certain expression of the Hindu system in Vaishnavism. Okay, then there's Kalki. Kalki is usually not seen as having come as of yet, this 10th avatar, but he's going to come at the end of the age, and is going to destroy all evil. As in this age that we fall into, it's the most evil of the evils, and people are more devoted to selfish things and selfish pursuits than righteousness in the world. So a new avatar will come, and he'll be called Kalki. Now let's go back to this slide. There is speculation that these beings like Rama and Krishna, not just the Buddha, okay, but Rama and Krishna were actually gods in their own right, who are worshipped, and stories were told about them. And as Vaishnavism became more and more popular, just like the devotees did with the Buddha, they absorbed Rama and Krishna, not so closely as so much as independent gods, but avatar expressions of the one God, Vishnu. So, oh yeah, you can keep on being devoted to Rama, or keep on being devoted to Krishna. You're really just worshiping Vishnu through your devotion of Rama and Krishna. So those devotees were absorbed into a Vaishnavite system, we can say. Okay, so one of the old and favorite stories that's not just been told, but plays been performed about, and poems have been elaborated upon these poems. It's a long work detailing all the aspects of the stories, with long monologues that go on, that are beautiful and elegant and idealistic. This is the great epic of the Ramayana, which with the Mahabharata are the two great epics of Hinduism. Okay, so the Ramayana is the story of Rama. It's a long epic story. It's usually believed to have originated about 2,000 years ago. Hindus will often give an older date. Scholars will give a little bit later date. Okay, but plays have been created about the Ramayana, and most recently there's been various films, both cartoon version as well as with human actors type films, that have depicted, usually in summary form, the story of the Ramayana. The gist or spirit of the Ramayana is the exemplification of the ideal of what the ideal human is, and the ideal human before he's an individual is seen as being a person in relationship to other people. So a person who is a king and prince, and performing, not just a leader with power, but someone who truly cares for and looks after his kingdom in this role. Someone who's a husband, a devoted son to his father and mother, devoted friend and brother, and a devoted wife. These are the qualities, the roles that are emphasized in the Ramayana and through the main characters. What these ideal roles look like are communicated or attempted to be communicated. So let's look briefly at some of the main characters. There's Rama, the prince and future king of Ayodhya. Okay, this is the kingdom in which he is from. His dad is the king. There's Sita, his wife, who's a paragon of virtue and devotion. There's Lakshman, devoted half brother, sometimes seen as full brother to Rama, other times as half brother. There's Hanuman, the monkey king. Sometimes he's considered the monkey king. Sometimes he's considered just a chief of the monkeys who's devoted to another monkey who's the king of the monkeys. And he's a paragon of faith and devotion to Rama. And through his devotion to him, he's given great powers. And there's always, of course, the antagonist of the story. This is Ravana in the story, and he's a demon, a 10-headed demon. And he's seen as king of Lanka or Sri Lanka. And so, long story in much briefer form, Rama is the favorite child of the number of sons that the king of Ayodhya has, and he's destined to become, and there's plans for it to make him king after the king of Ayodhya dies. However, the king has 3 wives, and one of them becomes compelled, due to the kind of the manipulations of her wet nurse, to force her king, who had promised her a boon or favor, anything she wants years before, forces him to make that favor gift to be that to banish Rama for 14 years from the kingdom and to establish her own son. So she's a stepmother of Rama, to establish her own son as the next king of Ayodhya. And so the king had given his promise he'd do whatever boon she asked. Does this, even though to much great regret he dies very soon thereafter in his great regret. And so Rama leaves. He tells Sita to stay in the comfort of the palace, but so devoted to her husband, she goes with him out into the forest in which he's retiring into and is going to be traveling through away from the kingdom. His half-brother Lakshman goes with him, even though Rama asks him to look after their family in the kingdom, and Lakshman, his great devotion and friendship with Rama, refuses to leave. And even the half-brother of Rama, the son of Kaikeya being this stepmother who, having her way, has had Rama banished. Right, the son of Kaikeya, named Bharata, he, in his great devotion to their father and great devotion to Rama and his love for Rama and his honor as a person, his integrity as a person, refuses to take up the throne for himself. Rather, he goes to Rama and begs him to return to the kingdom as he sees it as rightfully his. Rama refuses. He's going to follow through in his devotion to his father and stepmother, the 14-year exile. But instead, Bharata takes the sandals of Rama back to the kingdom and places those sandals on the throne and becomes the regent king, ruling in place of Rama during his exile and leaving that throne as rightfully Rama's. So you can see these great acts of devotion and honor in one's roles of a father, son, brother, mother, wife, husband, throughout this story. I won't give away how it ends. You can read more about it on your own. Okay, so let's look at the Bhagavad Gita, which literally means the song of the Lord. The Bhagavad Gita may have been originally a book of all its own, but it became consolidated as scriptures were redacted into a much longer epic called the Mahabharata, which is probably a combination of myth and history. And the Mahabharata is usually considered the longest epic written in the history of the world. It is a very, very, very long book. But within this very, very long book, there's a much smaller book called the Bhagavad Gita, which it's short enough you could read in a day if you so wanted. And there's a number of excellent translations of the Bhagavad Gita. So in this story, there is a prince named Arjuna. He has a charioteer, which happens to be the Avatar of Vishnu, Krishna. Okay. And there's brothers and cousins in the background of the story. Now, so in the story, the cousins of Prince Arjuna have managed through their own plots to take over the kingdom, even though Arjuna and his brothers are seen to be the more legitimate rulers. And in this contest of thrones, this Game of Thrones, if you will, there's a great battle that's about to begin where the immediate family of Arjuna is challenging the cousins of Arjuna to the throne. Arjuna is greatly saddened by this situation. He's about to go into bloody contest with his own family members, his cousins who are also his good friends they grew up with, and against his own teachers and mentors, who some of whom are on the other side. This bloody battle is about to begin. I think it's, for this horrible situation, nice that in these old days the kings and rulers would go into battle themselves rather than just sending other people as foot soldiers. Be that it may, Arjuna is very reluctant to go into battle and doesn't know what to do. He knows his duty as part of the warrior caste within the Hindu social system is to indeed fight, right? As the kings and princes are part of this warrior caste. Yet he doesn't want to fight and kill his own loved ones. So fortunately for him, he has a manifestation or incarnation of the god as Krishna as his charioteer. So he confides in Krishna, and Krishna gives him advice on what to do, first trying to coax and cajole him, but then slowly unveiling to him a deep and profound vision of reality to try to contextualize this action that he's contemplating to take and going into battle to help Arjuna figure things out. One of the advice that Krishna gives, and this advice giving and this conversation forms almost the entirety of the Bhagavad Gita, is this conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. On killing reincarnation, Krishna basically tells him, in performing his duties as a warrior in a righteous war, he doesn't have to worry about the death that ensues, as each person is an eternal Atman, which is reborn again and again, and so you can truly not kill it at any time, as it's an eternal substance. And for to the one that is born, death is certain, and certain is birth for the one that has died. The events of death and rebirth are thus unavoidable, and one should not grieve for them. Though this sort of advice, you can probably contemplate its problematics as a sort of vision of deciding whether or not to engage in bloody conflict with others. Okay, the next advice he gives them is related to the themes of dharma and karma yoga. Let's read this. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. By working without attachment, one attains the supreme. Okay, so for Krishna, the great problem in our decision making and any action we do take is worrying too much about the consequences, what we're going to get out of it, what good or harm we're going to cause, whether we're going to get fame or embarrass ourselves. These different sort. Are we going to get money or become impoverished? What are these fruits or consequences of these activities? Worrying about these things makes this action as an action of attachment, and this produces negative karma in our being and weighs us down. As long as we're doing our duty in a moral way, everyone should pursue it in devotion to that duty and not worry about the consequences. This is the second piece of advice. He also says, having abandoned the fruit of action, one attains steady peace. Okay, so the only way to create inner peace is to stop worrying about the consequences or fruits, the results of what we're doing. He says, therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Okay, so the only way to do your action, to act, is to surrender all your works unto me, being the manifestation of God or God himself. Okay, this is the only way to act that does not produce negative karma. Okay, he also refers to the other yogas or the other margas, the other paths in which one might take to attain spiritual fulfillment in this life. He refers to bhakti and the way of puja, and you can read that more closely on your own, this way of devotion, where whatever you do, make an offering to me, the food you eat, the sacrifice you make, the help you give, even your suffering. Okay? Whatever I'm offered in devotion with a pure heart, a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I accept that love offering. Okay, so whatever action, big or small, if it's done with a pure heart out of devotion for God, this is accepted. Okay, this is another possibility, another way to act, which is spiritually healthy, that Krishna tells Arjuna. And lastly, the last option for him is to go in the way of jnana yoga, or jnana yoga, in which this word jnana is closely connected to the word knowledge in English, or gnosis in Greek, this way of inner insight or knowledge. So what is this way of knowledge? I pervade the entire universe in my unmanifested form. All creatures find their existence in me, but I am not limited by them. Others follow the path of jnana, spiritual wisdom. They see that where is one, that one is me. Where there are many, all are me. That should be R. They see my face everywhere. Those who worship me and meditate on me constantly, without any other thought, I will provide for all their needs. Those who fail to realize my true nature must be reborn. Okay, so the other would act is to act in full knowledge, or at least striving to have full knowledge of one's relationship to the ultimate. And if one does it that way, then it will not produce negative karma either. And one will be liberated from rebirth in this world and attain absolute freedom and bliss in moksha, or liberation. And we can see a ideal expressed in which all forms of worship, probably facets of one universal kind of worship, where Krishna tells Arjuna, therefore, having been born in this transient and forlorn world, give all your love to me, fill your mind with me, love me, serve me, worship me always. Seeking me in your heart, you will at last be united with me. This seems to be the way of karma yoga, the way of bhakti yoga, and the way of jnana yoga, all united into one.